So in this segment, I'm going to give you some examples using the formula that we just discussed pertaining to single sums and compounding and discounting those sums. So in this particular example, see that if you invest $2,000 today in an account that pays 6% interest with interest compounding annually, how much will be in your account at the end of 2 years if there are no withdrawals? Okay, so these are what students typically like to call story problems, right? I mean, and there's several things to note. When you read these problems, you've got to extract the relevant information. There's code, right? We use code to signal certain things, right? Because understand that ultimately you're going to have to put it in that formula that we discussed in the earlier video, which is that that future value, linking the future value to the present value in terms of interest and number of periods, right? That formula is the governing equation for all of these kind of single sum problems that we'll be talking about. So in this case, the code is telling us if you invest 2000 today, that tells you right away that it's the present value of that $2,000. That's what's given to us. The interest rate I is 6% or 0.06 in fractional form. And it's also telling us that the interest is compounding annually, which means that it's once a year. Okay, and then how much will be in an account at the end of 2 years? So n equals 2. 2 years, the interest rate for each of those periods is 6%. We are required to calculate the future value, which when you use that formula that we discussed, future value equals present value times 1 plus I raised to the power n. You substitute in all those values and you get your future value as 2247 and 20 cents. So that's fairly simple. So let's look at another example. Sally needs to know how large of a deposit she needs to make today so that the money will grow to $2,500 in 5 years. Assume today's deposit will grow at an annual compounded interest rate of 4%. Again, this is a story problem. Let's extract the relevant information we need to solve the problem. So let's break it down here. Sally needs to know how large of a deposit she needs to make today. So that tells you that we need to calculate the present value. That's code for present value. So that the money will grow to $2,500 in 5 years. That's code for the $2,500 being the future value. And then n equals 5, and the interest rate is given to you at 4% over each of those annual periods. And substituting it in the present value form of that equation that we discussed in an earlier video, you can see that it's simply present value equals future value divided by 1 plus I raised to the power n, and you substitute in all the value. The only unknown there in that equation is that present value, which we need to solve for. And when you do that, if my math is correct, the answer should be 20.54 and 82 cents. So the bottom line is when you get these kind of problems, you've got to be able to read the code, to decipher the code. These are all single sum problems, and the reason I keep saying that is because very soon we'll be looking at annuities, which are a series of payments that we'll be evaluating using annuity formulas. Right now, we are at the simpler stage of the time value of money problems, which is just dealing with single sums of money, moving them from the present to the future or from the future to the present. Now, understand, when you look at that formula that we've discussed again, you can see there are 4 variables in that problem: the present value, the future value, the interest rate, and n, the number of periods involved. Those are the 4 unknowns, or the 4 factors that go into the formula. No matter what problem you get, it'll always be the case that you'll be given information on 3 of those, and you'll be required to solve for the 4th one. So, and it always doesn't have to be either present value or future value. It could be that you're given, for example, the present value and the future value, as well as the number of periods, and asked to solve for I, or the interest rate. Similarly, you could be given the other 3, present value, future value, and I, the interest rate, and be asked to solve for the number of periods involved. So be on the lookout for what exactly it is that you are asked in the problem. And that means a careful reading of the problem itself, the story problem, as students call it, and then understanding what information you're given, what exactly are you asked to solve for, and then putting the required variables in the equation, and then solving for the unknown, the remaining unknown that is asked for in the problem. If you can do that, you should be fine no matter what problem you are thrown. No matter what problem comes your way, you should be able to figure it out without any problems.